Originally, I was born in Iran. My dad was involved with the church over there, so we had to actually flee the country because of the regime. It was quite tough being a Christian there. When we came to England, when I was 9, they diagnosed it. The condition is known as cystic fibrosis. Now, cystic fibrosis, to put it in a very shortened version, is that you get your ducts are filled with mucus. Your lung gets filled up with mucus as well, and because obviously the mucus is blocking the ducts, the nutrients that your body needs, for example enzymes to digest the food, don't get there. At some stage, different types of transplant may be required because of the impact that your body takes from all these medications, and the condition itself does mean that your body goes through a lot. Medical scares, they come and they go, but I've been on death's bed many times before. My recent scare was when I went in for a normal inpatient scenario that I usually have, but this time round my breathing suddenly dropped, and it was dropping very dramatically. I had a panic attack because I couldn't breathe. They quickly transferred me to ICU, and in ICU this was where it was getting serious. I was screaming and they couldn't control my panic.
He wasn't himself at all. He was really scared. He was telling me he doesn't know if he was going to see me again. So that was really difficult to see Stephen admitting that he was feeling weak and that he wasn't sure he was even going to get through it. The darkest moment for me was the consultant called me and she explained what a desperate situation that she saw everything was in.
For her, she knew that because of my condition, this talk may appear sometime in our life, but obviously not this early. When death comes knocking, it doesn't give you time. It just literally, within days, it was like someone had taken the doormat underneath my feet and just ripped it. The doctor said then we can only, hope and pray, and hope is the only thing that we have. My dad had to cancel all his flights because he's involved with ministry work, but he just actually put a stop. And he stayed with me 24/7. That's when everyone started praying. So Facebook was filled with lots of encouraging, messages from people that we knew. And a lot of people were just praying. And our church was obviously praying as well, and it became a global thing. Even my Muslim friends, they were, a colleague of mine who's of, Islamic faith, he was praying, his mosque was praying, they don't even know me, and they were praying. So it was quite a difficult time, obviously. For me, it was a little bit easier, because obviously I was away with the fairies and just so drugged up, didn't know what was going on. But for Joy, it was tough. My family was tough, because my dad was with me in the ICU side of things 24/7. The difficult part was obviously I was telling my dad in the way I could hardly speak, because I had all these masks on, trying to indicate to him what song I wanted on my funeral, which was tough.
When I was first alerted to his condition, was actually on Facebook. All my medical training told me it's not good, that he's in intensive care, he's going to die. But then my faith kicked in and I thought, no, that's not God's will for him. He is not going to die. We have to fight this. God wants him to live.
Despite walking in and just seeing him, looking so unwell and really struggling to breathe, that was really difficult, but we knew that God really had spoken and he was going to be healed. So when we came in and saw him, we declared that over him.
it was just on that Sunday that my brother-in-law ran into his church they'd gone up earlier to say, please pray for my brother-in-law, etc. And 2 seconds later he runs back in that hall going, he's alive. Because, I'd normalised. I'm just very thankful, part of me is thankful it's actually happened to me, because if it happened to anyone else that I loved or any friends of mine, it would have annihilated them, and it gave me time to actually reflect more on what's important. The things that are taken for granted, you actually start appreciating again. And just, sitting on the couch watching the sun go down. In a hospital, there was no windows for me. I didn't even get to see, the summer. So it was nice to just appreciate the things that we neglect daily.
As a doctor, I'm aware of the limitations of the medication and the different therapies we have. I'm very thankful for medication and different treatments, but there are certainly many chronic diseases or terminal diseases that we still can't treat adequately, that people get worse and worse. And in those cases, prayer can prove to be very important.
Just to be where I am now in a normal way, it's just not possible. And it's something that you don't just suddenly from being dead to being alive. It just doesn't work like that, and the quick recovery that I've had from it as well. Personally, I think it's a lot to do with mental attitude as well as your faith. Faith plays a big part because it takes away any doubt. It takes away any sort of questions that you may have. And it gives you that reassurance.
I think by all means, if you believe in something supernatural, then why not, go for it, get somebody to pray for you or take homeopathy, whatever. But I don't think that it will actually work. And when people do trials, when they do trials that they're being prayed for, does this actually have agency? Does it have effect in the real world? It doesn't really cure anything. It just makes people feel better. You get the same kind of effects that you would from giving them a placebo.
I think that unfortunately, sometimes people from a scientific background or medical background can be a little bit condescending when it comes to belief in the supernatural. And I absolutely don't see the two as mutually exclusive at all. I think that things happen in a natural way, and what science does is really just explain what they're seeing. But the supernatural is something that can't be explained scientifically, and for me that's no problem. Just because something can't be explained scientifically doesn't mean that it doesn't happen.
I'm not the expert, obviously, on science, but I could certainly say I'm very thankful of it, because I didn't discount it. When they diagnosed me with cystic fibrosis, my parents could have simply said, actually, no, we reject it because it's not from God, when it's not the case, If I wasn't in hospital at the time that I would be dead. Prayers that obviously people made is an encouragement at the same time to the staff that are working hard, you know. The doctor wouldn't have told Joy, you know, let's hope and pray that he pulls through. They didn't have to say any of that if they were against it. Sometimes, you know, as human beings, all we have is hope and pray, because we've got nothing else. Everything else we've blown away or, you know, screwed up ourselves. But in reality, you know, I'm sure everyone, even if they're atheist, in their own belief or in their own faith, they still hope and pray.